Pixelart time lapse. Hey guys, welcome back. So today we're doing a small pixel art time lapse. It was actually one I'd done on TikTok, but I just really liked it, so I thought I'd clip it together here and share it on YouTube as well. I was kind of empty head with this one. I started out with some Studio Ghibli-esque clouds, and then honestly had no idea where to go from there, so like every wonderful childlike drawing ever, I just kind of did a green line and started filling in from there. Um, when I do like scenery and things like that, I usually tend to get lighter the farther away from the viewer I'm getting. So like the foreground is always lighter than the background, and is usually darker for me, just personally. When I do daytime portraits. And then the opposite. Wait, I think I might have misspoke. I can't speak. Speaking's hard. Rabbits have buck teeth. Let's see. When I do daytime drawings, I usually have the foreground the darkest and the background the lightest, to kind of indicate distance. So I don't really know what the hell I was thinking here. I think it's why I ended up putting the foliage here in the front, was to kind of break it up a little bit. And then when I do nighttime scenes, it's kind of the opposite. You know, the foreground is usually the lightest because there's no light. It's the closest thing you can see would be the things close to you with light reflecting. And then the further away something gets, usually in like a nighttime scene, of course, the darker it'll be, until you get to the sky. But you know, that's a whole other story. My point was that I wasn't really following any rules to this one. I was just kind of doodling, putting whatever made me happy, really, on the canvas. I tend to usually work smaller when I do pixel art, like not always. I've been trying to scale it up lately because I am by no means like a master. I'm actually pretty new to pixel art. I was like a realism student, actually. I did still lifes and portraits and things like that, and then realized I didn't like drawing that as much, and I transitioned slowly to like cartoons and anime and things like that, which ironically for me was very much like more difficult to simplify something, because with like realism there's so many lines that if one or two or three of them are off, like you can't really tell. But when it comes to pixel art and cartoons and anime and things like that, there are so few lines, implied lines, and just like direction indicators, that just like one simple line being off kind of throws the whole thing out of balance. So it's definitely something I struggle with as far as, you know, most of my art pieces go. But back to the piece. Whenever I do like a character, usually like as a sprite sheet, honestly, whenever I do a character like this, I would usually do the entire silhouette. Like think ahead of like what I want the character to be. So like if he's, you know, like now, if he's wearing a backpack, I would usually just do that in black as well. I usually flesh out the whole character in one solid color, just to get a good silhouette, because, you know, kind of like Who's That Pokemon? any good silhouette will be instantly recognizable regardless of what it is. So, and not to mention humans have great, you know, pattern recognition anyway. So my goal is to usually get the silhouette down, but in this one it wasn't a sprite, it was just, you know, a doodle. So I kind of just went backwards. Another thing I like to do usually is, depending on what I'm drawing, like with sprite sheets, they tend to have more solid outlines, just to kind of, you know, give you that definition when you're walking around or moving the character. And I usually tend to do like softer outlines on things that I want to fade into the background. Here in this piece, I wasn't thinking. Like I said, I was just empty head, and I noticed that every single thing had a soft outline except for that damn backpack. So like, I'm a little unhappy with that, but it's something to remember for the future. The backpack looks flat, and it would not have been so bad had it not been for that dark ass outline. But anyway, I digress. Excuse me. I really have nothing too much to say about this character, really, in general, other than like I have drawn him so many times. I came up with this whole story and this whole concept for like a backpack wizard or an inventory specialist or whatever you want to call it, and then when I looked it up online to like post it and see, you know, make sure nobody else had done it, I discovered there was like a whole damn game literally called that. So I was like, well, shit. So I never, I never went forward with him as far as story-wise go. But I have so many doodles and drawings of the inventory specialist in my head, you know, like it's like a lit RPG, you know, one of those literature RPGs where you're kind of like reading reading an RPG. He would definitely be like a I guess common wizard. They would look down upon him or something like that. But you know, like with any good with any good class, he would work his ass off, and next thing you know, he'd be like, I don't know, able to teleport, do like crazy shit because of, you know, black space technology of inventory wizard bag. I don't know all the details. I usually just wrote little tiny short stories about stupid shit that was happening. But back to the art piece. I struggled really hard with this gemstone. Like I have no problem usually like drawing like cartoony crystals or glass, but again, when it came to simplifying the shapes of this crystal to give the to give the shape that I wanted and the reflectivity, like to show that it was a gemstone, I for the life of me couldn't figure it the hell out. So I just kind of moved on, and this is what I ended up with. So yeah, empty head, pretty much the whole way through. I did not really like the color palette. Like it was so bland. Like green tunic and like the brown hat and like the red scarf. I pretty much just did that because like usually I draw this character in like a dark forest with like a lot of mushrooms and like moss and trees, and so like everything's got like purple and green and like weird colors to kind of reflect the environment. And I honestly think this is like the first time I've ever pretty much drawn him in just like a regular ass like field. And it made me realize that without the rim lighting and without all the like fantastical colors of the forest, I wasn't sure what color to make him. So he'll probably be back to his usual like fluorescent purples and yellows and oranges in the future. But when it came to pixel art, I'm such a noob, and I wasn't sure how to do that or accomplish the looks that I wanted with that. So we'll have to revisit that in the future. So yeah, here's my little wanderer. At this point, I had moved to do I couldn't decide really what I wanted to do the background. Like he needed to be staring at something since he was going over this hill. And like default, I always kind of, you know, put mountains and things like that. Until I got to thinking about one of those stories I had where he found these steampunk ruins that were pretty much abandoned. I say steampunk. It was more like ancient mage ruins that had been like found and reestablished by the current civilization that was living, and they were more technology like steampunky, not I guess the proper term would be solar punk, because we're not talking future here, we're talking like, you know, medieval times, but they still have like hot air balloons and like aqueducts you know, irrigation, plumbing, things like that. So that was kind of where my head went with this one. I was starting to realize that I had a lot of empty space in this piece, and so I was just kind of trying to fill it with as many eye-catching details, you know, as possible. Here you can see my notes to myself, so I was like, how do I fill in these spaces here? And since I drew the windmill in my little steampunk mind, I was like, or not steampunk, in my little solar punk thought process, I was like, oh, well, they'll have hot air balloons and like blimps, so they'll need, you know, some sky islands to get to. And you know, you can't tell I've been playing Tears of the Kingdom at all. But again, I started out with outlines. I pretty much always start out with outlines and your silhouette, and just kind of fill it in, and then I'll place my colors on top of it afterwards. I was getting a little lost with what to do up there in the sky, so you see me disappear and go out here and detail some of the grass and like add some misty clouds while I tried to like kind of ponder what I was gonna do or what colors they were gonna be. In the end, I just kind of went back to, you know, my usual doodly shit. But yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say for this one. I really enjoyed working on this piece. It was nothing fancy, but it was definitely something different that I'm not used to doing, and yeah, well, I hope you enjoyed it. Come back and see me for the next one. But as far as this one goes, I'm out.